All right, everybody, welcome in to another episode of the NFL Seekers podcast. Today, we're going to be previewing week 11 of the NFL season. There's some pretty good games. You got Josh Dobbs on Sunday Night Football, and me and Josh are playing each other in fantasy. And not gonna lie, it's a pretty big game. I'm kind of getting the feeling that it's gonna be like winner gets like the last seed of the playoffs. So it's kind of a big game, and I'm a little nervous for it. But yeah, we got a big week. It might get a little toxic over here in the NFL Seekers headquarters.
Yeah, we'll have to see come next Monday if me and Dan are on talking terms. This is an absolute crucial battle, battling for that final seed in our playoff spot. It's coming. It's winner right now. It takes the playoff spot. Dan's currently in the playoffs. I'm one game out. If I beat Dan, we're tied, and then I have more points for. So it's big for the playoff implications. It's rival week. And let's just say it's going to get toxic around here. So stay tuned into NFL Seekers if you want, some beef going on.
Yeah, rivalry week. It's going to be a good game. It's definitely going to be a close one. I have Mahomes and Kelsey, so it's 100% coming down to Monday night. So it's going to be a crazy week. Well, I'm excited to get into the game previews, but let's start with our underdog segment. We both chose some locks, and I'll start with my lock of the week. It is Keaton Mitchell, the Ravens running back, higher than 8.5 receiving yards. That is a hilarious low line. He had 32 receiving yards last week, and he's just such an electric player. You just throw one screen to Keaton Mitchell, he's gonna hit that 8.5 receiving yard line. Jim Harbaugh said he's such an electric runner. He wants to get him more involved. So I trust Jim Harbaugh to at least throw one or two screens to him, and he'll get that line. He's such a good runner, and we both collaboratively chose the CJ Stroud line because it just seems like such a lock. He's the hottest player in the NFL right now, and we want to ride the flames. He's coming off a 470-yard pass performance and 356, so we want to ride the flames.
100%. Yeah. I love your lock and Keaton Mitchell right there. 8.5. All it is just one screen to him, which he will get. And that just is clearly the lock of the week on Thursday Night Football. So prime time, he'll probably break another big, pass or run, whatever it is. I think Keaton Mitchell will be solid this week. And then Stroud versus Arizona, Kyler Murray. This should be one that Stroud gets going early and often, against a pretty weak Arizona team. We can expect Stroud to be airing it out a lot and getting a lot of touchdowns early and yards. So love that one from us. And then my lock of the week was Jahmyr Gibbs, higher than 40.5 rushing yards versus Chicago. And the way the Lions are running the ball last week, they put up 200 on a pretty actually decent Chargers run game, defensive run game this year. And Jahmyr Gibbs is just eating, and he's getting better by the week. And I know he's in a running back by committee with David Montgomery, but I don't think that matters at all. I think we can see Jahmyr Gibbs, last week, 77 rush yards, the week before 152, the week before 68. So Jahmyr Gibbs, he's only on the uphill right now. So I wouldn't even, and again, Jahmyr Gibbs is so electric. I wouldn't be surprised if he breaks a 40-yard run early against Chicago, and this game gets out of reach really early, and they just tote the rock till the end.
Yeah, all three of these lines really do just feel low. That Jahmyr Gibbs line at 40, coming off that big game against the Chargers, you had a 135-yard run alone against a good Chargers run defense. So that has to be a lock. And kind of like you said with CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray's competitive. He's going to keep the Cardinals in it. He's going to make Stroud kind of have to pass and keep things going through the air. So I like all these lines a lot.
Oh, 100%. And listen to Dan because he has not missed on his lock of the week yet. So what are we going? 4 weeks strong?
Yeah, it's been over a month now, and I haven't missed an underdog lock of the week yet. So tell us, and with that, we'll get on to the game preview segments. The Thursday night football game. It's a great Thursday night football game. The Bengals are going into Baltimore and playing the Ravens. The Ravens are 3.5-point home favorites, and some injuries in this one that's going to kind of even things out. There's no T. Higgins, no Sam Hubbard for the Bengals, and there's no Marlon Humphrey and no Ronnie Stanley for the Ravens. So four absolute stars, two for each team. And it's going to be a big difference maker in this game. You got Lamar Jackson playing some MVP football, coming off that loss against the Browns. It wasn't great. They kind of crumbled in that second half. That I'm not too worried. Their defense has been playing great. I'm not too worried that second half will be a repeat. And then, yeah, the Bengals coming off a loss against the electric Texans. So both teams coming off a loss. Both are going to be angry and wanting a win. Both are going to be kind of needing a win in this tough AFC. So it's going to be a dogfight in Baltimore. I'm excited.
Yeah, this is going to be a dogfight. A big rivalry week for these two teams. Probably the top two teams in their division, and division games are always bloodbaths. And the first time they played on September 17th, the Ravens squeaked out of there with a 27-24 victory. And I just have these teams, even before the season started, when I thought about these two teams, I just see them going 50-50 in the division for the next 10 years, just switching off with Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. And now that, Lamar Jackson got the first game this season, I got to take Joe Burrow. They're both coming off of tough losses. They're both going to be playing really hard, but and just the fact that the Ravens have already beat them this year just tells me that the Bengals aren't going to let that happen. They're not going to get swept by the Ravens. And I think they're going to come into this one prepared. And missing Ronnie Stanley on the Ravens side of things is huge, with Trey Hendrickson just absolutely feasting this season. So, I feel like the Bengals defense is going to get after Lamar Jackson, make him uncomfortable. And I think Joe Burrow, despite the loss last week, I think he's going to get his feet back under him, and he's going to start airing it down the field. And I honestly just think the Ravens are just going to outscore the Bengals are just going to outscore the Ravens in this one.
I'm going to be completely honest right now, Josh. I had the Ravens put down, and you convinced me. I'm switching it right now to the Bengals. I think the Bengals are going to win this game. The more you talked about it, I see the Bengals winning it. I see it. That's crazy. We have a sweep in this one with the Ravens at home. They're so good at home, but I don't know. I just have a feeling that the Bengals are going to play sharper. It's not like they were bad against the Texans. They happened to play against the best quarterback in the NFL, and it was right down to the wire. So I think the Bengals are fine. They're Lou Anarumo has been figuring things out, and I think it's going to be a really close one. It's a coin flip, but I kind of am feeling the Bengals as well.
Yeah, it's just in all reality, it's a gut feeling, and just knowing that I don't think there's any way the Bengals will let the Ravens sweep them and in the division this year. So give me Joe Burrow coming off that, that pretty tough loss to Texans. I feel like that was a gut-wrenching loss for the Ravens last week, and I feel like it's just going to take a little bit out of them this game. And so I don't know. Yeah, just a gut feeling. I'm rolling with the Bengals, going into Baltimore and taking them down.
And no Marlon Humphrey. Look for Jamar Chase to kind of go off in this one. I think Jamar Chase goes off. Tyler Boyd, he's going to get the volume. The Ravens defense is incredible. So that's the one thing kind of making it questionable. I think in a 12-team league, you start Tyler Boyd. If you have better options, you could, just because it's such a tough matchup. But any game that Higgins isn't playing, you Boyd is a start. So, and then you're feeling good about Mixon, obviously Burrow, you kind of have to start. So you're feeling good about the Bengals options. And then on the Ravens, like I talked about in our underdog segment, I think Keaton Mitchell is a start. If you're desperate, like obviously if you have two established running backs, you don't need to. But if you need, I think Keaton Mitchell's a dart throw, because Jim Harbaugh said he's gonna, or is it John Harbaugh? I keep mixing up the Harbaughs.
John, yeah, John's the Ravens.
Jim the cheater's in the news too much, so I got it mixed up. Yeah, John said that he's going to feed Keaton a lot more today again in this Bengals game. So I think you can play him, and I think Zay Flowers kind of played himself into at least flex contention last week. It's a little bit scary, and then obviously Lamar and Mark Andrews are locks.
100%, yeah, and yeah. Did you just mention Odell?
No. Are you starting Odell?
What? I don't know. He had one catch for 40 yards and a touchdown last week, but he scored 2 games with consecutive touchdowns. And there's no dominant receiver, in my opinion. Obviously, Zay Flowers is the wide receiver 1 there, but there's just no dominant receiver. So I don't know. Odell is a scary dart throw for a flex. I guess it just depends on your buy situation, how desperate you are. But I guess you could throw in Odell, because 2 touchdowns in back-to-back games is pretty good. Who knows? He could maybe sneak his way into the end zone. That's kind of what you're betting on for any fantasy hope.
Yeah, he is looking better on the field. I think that is like a good, just if you need a spot start for this week, then Odell isn't the worst option. And yeah, hopefully he gets targeted a little more than last week. But we'll go on to the next game. Another division battle of this AFC North, a tight AFC North. Everyone is in the playoffs right now. the 6-3 Steelers are gonna go into Cleveland and play the 6-3 Browns. The Browns are 1-point home favorites with Dorian Thompson-Robinson starting, with Deshaun Watson going out for season. And I did want to give Deshaun Watson his respect real quick. This is probably the last time we'll talk about him for the season. He played that second half of the Ravens game with like a separated shoulder and a high ankle sprain. So that's pretty crazy. He's gonna be out for the season with those injuries, and he completed every single pass in that second half, by the way. So I guess that was impressive. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson coming in, he has one start this year against the Ravens, and it was a disaster. I think everyone's kind of eyeing the Steelers' fantasy defense right now to start, and I don't know. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson could kind of have he'll have a better game. That start that he had against the Ravens was on zero notice. He was told like the morning of that he was starting and against a really, really good defense. I think he will be better, but the Steelers defense is great. Their pass rush is great. I don't think it'll be a beautiful sight for DTR.
What happened to PJ Walker?
Yeah, so PJ Walker goes and beat the Niners in San Fran, and then they decide they want to roll with the young kid. I mean, like, I didn't mention that because I kind of understand it from like you want upside, you want to at least just see what the upside can be. You lost to Deshaun Watson, you know what PJ Walker is, so I at least see just giving him a chance one more. But yeah,
Right. Yeah. I guess, I don't know. The Browns are still, I mean, it's kind of nice for us other AFC teams to have the AFC North both play each other this week. So we're going to get two big losses from them. And like I kind of said in last week's episode, they'll start weeding themselves out because they haven't played each other a lot in this division. So there's going to be a lot of AFC games that teams just start weeding themselves out with losses, and it's going to be crazy. It's the AFC. I just got a side tangent here. The AFC is absolutely crazy. I mean, I think there's like 14 teams, like all within like a game or a game and a half of playoff contention.
every AFC team is
Literally
within one game.
So it's just ridiculous. It's gonna be interesting. You can finish this last half of the season out the strongest. And that's where the good teams are gonna start separating themselves. But a lot of teams are gonna start weeding themselves out. A lot of divisional games coming up, which is gonna be fun. But yeah, just side tangent right there. It's kind of nuts. The AFC just in general, just it's so far superior to the NFC. I just got to say that. It really
At
is.
least a lot deeper, like an incredibly deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's just so much more of a bloodbath than the NFC. I feel like the NFC just has a couple of its elite teams that just separate themselves, and then there's a lot of lower mid teams that you can make it, I think, in the NFC with almost close to a losing record, a 500 record. In the AFC, it's if you're 500, you're not going to make it. You got to just be a little above it, and there's going to be so many teams next to that stat line. It's just going to be nuts. Sorry, side tangent there. Back onto the Browns and the Steelers. This one was really, really hard for me to pick. I mean, Deshaun Watson out. We got DTR in, but I don't know. I think maybe it's an advantage to the Browns in a way. There's just not a lot of tape on Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Obviously, he's very athletic. You kind of know what his style of play is, but I think that benefits the Browns in kind of an odd way. And the Browns have really established themselves. I mean, their defense is on fire. They got two really good running backs, even with Nick Chubb, out for season. And I just feel like this one's going to be awfully close. But in all reality, is DTR, even in that Ravens game where he was so struggled thrown in there, is he much worse than Kenny Pickett? That's kind of that's kind of my thing right there. And I believe the Browns are a better team. So that way I'm going to lean with the Browns. I'm going to take the Browns to roll with this one. I think it's going to be close. Obviously, you got a young quarterback, a late draft pick that you're rolling with, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a lot on the running backs. I think whatever running team out, does the best between, Najee and, Jerome Ford on the other side. Whoever is going to have the best running back and the best defensive play is going to win this one. And I think the Browns are just a little bit more of a superior team.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't expect that at all. I picked the Browns too, and I thought it would easily be the only one picking the Browns. But like, they've played more than half their season with backup quarterbacks. I'm not too worried. I think that this is actually like an injection of volatility into their team right now. They're at home. I have a Steelers fan that's going to hate me, but yeah, because I always pick against them, I feel like, but I am going to pick the Browns. I have a feeling about DTR. I just have a feeling at home the NFL is weird. They'll find a way to get it done by like 3 or it's going to be a close game, and yeah, I just see that happening. And I think the Browns would easily win this game if they would have not got rid of Josh Dobbs and kept him as a backup. He would have been a nice backup because Josh Dobbs was on their roster this season.
Yeah, they definitely struck out with that one right there. Josh Dobbs is him. But yeah, I mean, this could be an exciting game. I think for fantasy purposes, you start Kareem Hunt, you start Jerome Ford, you start Jalen Warren, you start Najee Harris. And I honestly almost feel comfortable starting both defenses in this one. Obviously, you start the Browns defense just because they're so electric and they can score and turn the ball over. And then DTR, I don't know. We don't know. I'm sure he'll have a couple rookie boneheaded moments. You know, interceptions. Obviously, you're playing against TJ Watt, so you got to throw a sack in there. So I mean, I feel like it's just going to be a lot of rushing yards, a lot of just ground and pound, and whatever defense is the strongest, and whatever running back can get in the end zone will ultimately be the winner. And yeah, of course, we're going with the Browns, but I don't know. I mean, from a fantasy aspect, start all 4 running backs. Just I think they're locks this week. And then, I mean, obviously, if you have Amari Cooper, you got to start Amari Cooper. Deontay Johnson was a letdown last week. I mean, I'm a little sus on the Steelers wide receivers right now. I don't know. I just don't know what to think about them. They're just too inconsistent. But I mean, I think you obviously got to start Deontay Johnson. It's just I'm a little scared versus these Cleveland corners.
Yeah, against these Cleveland corners, that's kind of a disastrous matchup. I'm definitely starting both Najee and Jalen Warren. They're kind of like starts the rest of the season. They're playing really good. And then yeah, Deontay, you kind of have to start Pickens. I would definitely just look away. You can't be starting Pickens. And for the Browns, like if you can, just don't even start Amari Cooper. I mean, until you see how much DTR targets him. I know PJ Walker targeted Amari Cooper a lot, but we have no idea. So I think for the Browns, you start Ford, and I don't really think you start anyone else. And like you said, I think the defenses are both startable, which is interesting.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, this is going to be another close game. I don't project it to be a high score, and so that's why I feel comfortable starting the defenses.
Yep, that 1 point line it's going to be close, and then Vegas knows they have the Browns favored even with DTR, so they know. Don't watch this one. We have a sweep. We'll get on to the next one. The Cardinals are going to go into Houston and play the Texans. It's going to be Kyler versus Stroud, two really hot players right now. They're playing some good football. The Texans are 5-point home favorites, and the Cardinals are undefeated this season since Call of Duty came out. So that's kind of crazy that no one's talking about that. The narrative around Kyler is that he's like 0-4 in years or in weeks that Call of Duty comes out over the last few years. So yeah, no one's talking about that. But Kyler played some good football last week. He was kind of running wild. He looked completely healthy. He looked like normal Kyler. He made some good throws. I expect him to make more of an impact through the air this week. I think he's going to kind of dice up the Texans and kind of get in a little shootout with CJ Stroud. It's going to be honestly a back and forth, pretty fun game. I kind of project.
Yeah, I feel like this one's going to be oddly closer than I expect. I think people are expecting the Texans to come in here and handle business easy. But Kyler kind of showed in his first game back from being out almost a year that he's got that juice and he's able to run and go out there and make plays. And he did a pretty good job. And I expect James Conner back from injury. I don't feel like he was the strongest last week. I think, for running back, it takes a game or two for them to get back usually. So I think James Conner is going to do good. I think Kyler is going to be good. And they kind of just got a little juice midseason. The Cardinals and Kyler's got to go out there and get some wins and hope the Cardinals aren't interested in drafting another quarterback and replacing him. So, he's got a lot to play for this season. I think the Cardinals whole roster in general has got a lot to play for. All the free agents on the team, there's a lot to play for them, even though, they're not really in playoff contention. But I don't know. There's a weird feeling in my stomach that it's going to be a lot closer, and I almost want to say there might be an upset, but I'm not rocking against Stroud. That dude's too electric. Their receivers are too good right now. As you see Noah Brown up on the screen, back-to-back 150 plus yard performances from Noah Brown. CJ Stroud can get it done. It doesn't matter who they're throwing to. They're getting Nico Collins back this week. So, I mean, the Texans are just too hot. They're rolling. D'Amico Ryans is now an absolute guru. And, I'm very excited for this one, but I'm not rolling against Stroud yet.
Yeah, like you said that perfectly. I think it really will be close. So then people think it's going to be high scoring and back and forth, but you have to roll with the NBA Jam fire emoji. CJ Stroud right now, he's just on fire. He's the player in the NFL that's just on fire the most. And yeah, for fantasy, you're really excited that Kyler's back. It opens a lot of things up for the Cardinals. You definitely start Kyler, Connor, and Hollywood had a rough week last week. I think they kind of throw it a lot more to him this week. So I'm not too worried about him. And Trey McBride, you could start him as a flex, as a tight end. I think he's like their wide receiver one right now. He definitely was last week, and Kyler loved him in his first game back. And yeah, on the Texans, Damian Pierce and Nico Collins didn't practice today. And today is Wednesday, so just monitor that on Thursday and Friday. The Texans practice report, because they have so many options that does affect a lot of people. Tank Dell is a must start. Noah Brown's probably a start right now, just with the injuries and how hot he is. And Devin Singletary, RB3 in fantasy last week. I know Josh doesn't like him because he's isn't a big name and he has kind of a gross name, but RB3 in fantasy last week, and he could be a league winner. And when things go, when the playoffs come around, I really don't think Damian Pierce is going to be an impact on this team, even when he's back. And I don't know, Dalton Schultz is a must start, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fantasy players you can start in this team on this team. They're just electric. So yeah, I mean, anyone who you think is going to get viable snaps on the Texans, start them. They're just a must start. And yeah, I think it could be I think it could be a high scoring game. This one honestly really could. And so I mean, feel confident in starting your Trey McBrides, like you said. Hollywood Brown should have a bounce back. James Conner, and even at this point, start Kyler. You know, depending on who your quarterback is, Kyler's probably a start. And, in a game like this where there could be a lot of points. So it'll be an exciting one. But, I think me and you, we're not going to go against our boy CJ Stroud right now. I think he should just get this one done.
Yep. And one more thing, it felt a little bit irresponsible to add it into our underdog segment, but I would take the over on Kyler Murray getting a rush touchdown. I almost added that, but yeah, I think Kyler Murray is 100% getting a rush, at least one touchdown this game. So take that over. And with that, we'll get on to the next one. The Titans are going to go into Jacksonville and play the Jaguars. It's a big AFC South matchup, and the Jaguars are 7-point favorites. And I guess I can save you guys some time right now. The Titans just don't show up on the road. They haven't even won on the road this year. And then I'm just going to pick the Jaguars. The Titans didn't impress me at all against the Buccaneers last week. They kind of looked like they had no life. And the Jaguars are coming off a loss. I think it's pretty safe to say they're going to be bouncing back in a strong way in Jacksonville. I think I'm going to lock this one in as my guarantee of the week. Are there any convictions with that?
You said it perfectly. I don't think this one will necessarily be close, even though it is a divisional game. The Titans just have no identity on either side of the ball right now. It's just looking gross. And Jacksonville coming off of a brutal loss. Look for them to bounce back strong, and look for Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, just all to have big weeks. And this Jacksonville defense, if they're a streaming option for you this week, get them. I think they'll probably give Will Levis a really tough time. So get that Jacksonville defense, start them. They're electric at making turnovers this year. I think they're the highest turnover defense in the league right now. But yeah, like you said, probably just the lock of the week right here with the Jags.
And in fantasy, I think Tyjae Spears is just as much of a start as Derrick Henry is in this specific matchup, because you know that the Titans are going to be down, and you know that Tyjae Spears outsnaps Henry in games that they're losing and they need to pass it. So I'm 100% confident that Tyjae Spears outsnaps him again this week, and he's in flex consideration. And you're straight up scared about Derrick Henry if he doesn't break a long run, and you're scared about DeAndre Hopkins. You can start him if you really, really need to. And then that's it for the Titans. That's all. And for the Jaguars, you start everyone like you said. You're benching Calvin Ridley if you want to target him. You can, but they're playing the Titans. They're not going to need to target him, so I don't think they even involve him again. So I think it's just Kirk, Etienne. You can drop Trevor. He's not fantasy playable. He just doesn't translate to fantasy. So I think Evan Ingram's a must start. So Ingram, Kirk, Etienne must starts, and then I think you're out on Calvin Ridley and Trevor right now.
Preach. Seager's going 4 for 4 on sweep so far. So, if you can put money on these games, lock them in. We're both agreeing we're a perfect 4 for 4 to start.
Yeah, I need to catch up on picks, so I need to loan dog some of these. But we'll get on to the next one. The Raiders are gonna go into Miami and play the Dolphins, and they're 13.5 point
I
underdogs.
think we're gonna be 5 for 5. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, I think maybe I don't know if I'm bold enough to pick Aiden O'Connell in Miami against Tua and Tyreek. And like you say, the Dolphins dominate bad teams. So I guess you can lock this one specifically in as your Michael Myers bloody murder game of the week.
Yes, Michael Myers, bloody game. Tyreek Hill, 200 yards. Jalen Waddle's healthy and good to go, 200 yards. I think this is Devon Achan coming back this game. Probably 100 yards on the ground and 100 yards through the air.
On
So
2 carries.
2 to 4 carries, he'll have 200 yards. So lock that in. So yeah, I mean, this one, I feel bad almost for the Raiders. I know the Raiders are coming off of a big win versus the Jets, but this is a little different offense we're talking about here.
Yeah, target the game in fantasy too. You can feel comfortable starting Devonta Adams, Josh Jacobs for the Raiders, even Jacoby Myers, just because they're going to be needing to pass it every single play. You could even throw a dart at Michael Mayer because I think the Raiders will be able to at least score. Antonio Pierce has them playing hard. They're a 5-5 football team. I know that 13.5 point line is crazy, and we don't even need to talk about it. You start every Dolphin, you start Mostert, everyone. The only fear is that they stop playing in like the third quarter. So that would be the only fear for me in the Dolphins fantasy aspect. And yeah, I think you're just starting it every offensive option because it's going to be high scoring no matter what.
Yeah, and Mike McDaniels clearly likes to run up the score when he can. I think he is a little bit of a stats guy, even though he'd never admit it. If they're putting up 70 against the Broncos, never seen an NFL team try that hard to put up points, airing it out in the fourth quarter with Mike White. But yeah, this is yeah. I'm sorry, Raiders. You guys are actually playing really hard. We disrespected you, but I'm not gonna take away my Michael Myers pick from this one. So this should be a murder. So
Yeah, we disrespected the Raiders. We're gonna hold our hands up right now because we straight up, the Raiders are probably like the one team we missed on the most in our power rankings, that we disrespected them. They should be over the Jets. They're a better football team than the Jets right now because they have a better quarterback than them currently, and they just beat them. So the Raiders should be above the Jets. So you can lock them in at 16 in our power rankings right now, and Raiders fans hopefully don't hate us as much. Anything else you want to say in this one?
yeah, sorry we disrespected you. That was our biggest miss. We'll put our hands up when we're wrong. That was a miss. And yes, you guys are better than the Jets. You should have been ranked higher than the Jets. And that's mainly because of your quarterback. So he is better than the Jets quarterback. So sorry, Raiders fan. We made a mistake.
Yeah, Aiden O'Connell 2-0. He gets the job done when he needs. He's good in the red zone at throwing touchdowns. So I love what I'm seeing. We'll go on to the next game. The Chargers are going into Green Bay and playing the Packers. The Chargers are 3-point road favorites. It's a little bit of a smaller line than I expected. I guess it's just because the Chargers are 4-5, I guess, but I don't know. They're coming off a good performance. Like everything I took away from that Lions Chargers game was all positives for me for the Chargers. And the Packers are going to be wearing their beautiful, beautiful, beautiful throwback jerseys. So that's kind of my takeaway in this one. Does that scare you at all? I'll let you break this one down.
Sexy jerseys are always a fear. When you look good, you play good at home. That does scare me a little bit. I didn't know that. This is the first I'm hearing about that. So this makes the game, a little closer in my opinion. So I got to throw that one in. Throwbacks, they're just different. You play different in them. However, with that being said, I just think this is going to be one where the Chargers offense just takes over and is a little above the Packers offense. And I think that's what's ultimately gonna do it. And I think the Chargers pass rush, after facing the best offensive line in football last week, they're gonna be angry and completely diminished Packers offensive line. I think they should eat and cause Jordan Love some problems. And they're angry. They're gonna be looking to get back to 500. The Chargers season has been so far a disappointment. And I mean, so is the Packers. The Packers are definitely playing underwhelming. Jordan Love looks to not be as great as we thought he would be. He seems to not be as careful with the ball. He's making some boneheaded decisions, and the Packers just kind of look flat at 3-6. But however, if you're an Aaron Jones fantasy manager, feel confident and comfortable starting him because I do think he'll actually eat this game. But I think only really Aaron Jones is who I'd start on the Packers from a fantasy aspect. So I think the Chargers will kind of dominate the rest of the field. But Aaron Jones should be fine for fantasy. And I am, obviously, with the way I'm talking, I am taking the Chargers in this one. They need a big bounce back win. And I think Herbert and that offense, Kellen Moore, they finally kind of figured out an identity last week against a good Lions defense and put up 38. So kind of expect a big game from the offense and just to get ahead of the Packers early.
Yeah, you keep saying to start Aaron Jones, and I'm 100% positive you're trying to jinx it because I have him and I'm playing against you. So I know for a fact that Aaron Jones is dropping 2 points, and again, the Chargers will completely lock him up. And yeah, I agree. You start Aaron Jones, and that's it. I think Jaden Reed is like the one other dart throw, and maybe Luke Musgrave if you really, really need a tight end. He could be decent in this matchup. But other than that, that's it. Jordan Love, the boneheaded picks have been bad. They've been kind of losing the Packers some games. Like he needs to fix the picks, but he's playing a little bit better. He's making throws, but it is the picks that's really ultimately ruining him. So he's going to need to kind of be more consistent with that because he is making some better plays as of late. And then yeah, for the Chargers, like I said, I took away all positives in that Lions game, and I kind of expect them to keep picking up on that pace. And Keenan Allen's going to have a day. Austin Eckler is going to have a day, and I think the Chargers are going to get this road win. It could be it'll probably be a decently close game, like maybe 31-20, something like that.
Oh yeah, knowing the Chargers, they'll keep every game close. No matter who they're playing with, it'll always be a close game. And Chargers historically don't play very good in that 11 o'clock window. So that's something to be mindful of. They are going to Green Bay. It could be a trap. It really could be a trap game. And the Chargers secondary was absolutely depleted and destroyed last week by Jared Goff and the Lions. So the Chargers secondary is one of the worst secondaries in the NFL, if not the worst. So, I mean, Jordan Love could take advantage of that. I'm just not sure if he will. And I do expect the pass rush to get home a lot. And to, just make them off balance and uncomfortable back there. And so I think the Chargers, even though they're one of the worst pass defenses, I think the rush is going to get home to Jordan Love a lot. So I think they're a fringe play if you need to stream a defense this week.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Chargers defense will be decent, and I think you start every Chargers option. And yeah, is there anything else you want to say in this one?
No, let's move on to the next one.
All right, we'll move on to the Cowboys. We're going to go into Carolina and play the Panthers, and the Cowboys are 10.5-point road favorites. And if I'm being honest, I do think this game will go similarly to last week's Cowboys game against the Giants. I think they're just going to kind of have offensive fireworks. I think you kind of start every single Cowboys option, even this man, Brandon Cooks, who kind of went off last week. I think you start Michael Gallup. Like, I think this is going to kind of go the exact same as last week. I just think they're going to spread it around to everyone, share the love. Obviously, CD, Dak will go off in fantasy. I think it'll be kind of like that. I think Adam Thielen, by the way, has a pretty decent, respectable game. This specific game, I don't know why. I'm just getting that feeling. I think that Bryce Young will push some things at home. They'll be able to at least get maybe a touchdown or two against the Cowboys. But I think this goes exactly how that Cowboys-Giants game kind of went ultimately.
Yeah, the Cowboys are kind of asserting themselves and just having statement wins against not very good teams. And they're looking dangerous and lethal. And this will be, if I'm going to have two Michael Meyer murder games of the week. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Bryce Young, but you are going to get murdered, and the score might end up 40-0. When the Cowboys dominate, they really dominate. And this is going to be one of those games again. So sorry, don't start any Panthers except Adam Thielen just because of volume and receptions. I think that's the only reason you could start him, and then start everyone on the Cowboys. The Cowboys like to put up points. I know Mike McCarthy before the season said something, he just wants to run the ball, but Dak's throwing the ball really good right now. Jake Ferguson, CeeDee Lamb are absolutely eating. Brandon Cooks went off last week, and even Rico Dodell getting some later runs in this when they start really dominating, I think could be a borderline flex option. But yeah, murder game of the week. Those are my fantasy implications. You had the Cowboys defense. Congratulations. You're going to score 30 points in fantasy. It'll probably win you your matchup. But yeah, this is going to be a bloodbath.
Yeah, the Cowboys are just so hot right now. Their offense is so dynamic right now. You start every option and you're really excited. And with that, we'll get on to the next game, the The Bears are going to go into Detroit and play the Lions, who are 8-point favorites. And this is your chance, Justin Fields. This is your last chance. You got the rest of the season to prove to the Bears that you're the future, or to prove to some NFL team that you're a future NFL quarterback. And I'm excited to see what he does. He's finally back. Hopefully he's fully healthy. And I kind of do expect him to put up a decent amount of points against the Lions. Like, I'm not really telling anyone to pick up and start the Lions defense in this matchup. I just have a feeling that the Bears do get points in this, that we saw what the Chargers did to their defense, the Lions defense last week. And yeah, I just think with possibly Khalil Herbert coming back as well, I think the Bears will at least score points, but I think we know where this is going. The Lions, what are they? One of the top 3 hottest teams in the NFL right now. They're playing so good. We saw them against the Chargers. They were just such a well-oiled machine on offense, especially. Defense has some work to do the last few weeks, but yeah, it's going to be a fun NFC North matchup.
Oh, 100%. However, I think the Seekers are a perfect 8 for 8 now. This has got to be a record. Apparently you don't need to watch any of these games on Sunday, because we agree on everything, which I don't know if it's ever happened for a perfect 8 for 8. But yeah, I mean, you said it, like, we all know where this one's going. It is another divisional game. But I mean, come on, look at what the Lions did last week. They're 7-2. They have the best coaching staff, the best offensive line in the NFL. Their running backs are absolutely electric. Jared Goff is playing some of the best football of I would say the best football of his career right now. They have so many stars: Amon-Ra St. Brown, on the other side, Aiden Hutchinson. So yeah, we all know where this is going. I think the Lions, I think that is a fair line right there for the Lions. But I do expect Justin Fields, DJ Moore, Khalil Herbert to put up a fight. They'll put up a fight, but I don't know how long and how many quarters that fight will last for, because the Lions are just overwhelming, especially on that offensive line. But yeah, I think I'm excited to see Justin Fields. If he was able to pull this one off, this would be electric. This would be huge for the Bears. Maybe turn their season around. I think it might be too late at this point with 7 losses, but for him to prove himself, and they're going to have 2 early picks, and for him to keep his job next season, Justin Fields has got to go out here this last half of the season and prove why he's the franchise guy there in Chicago, so they don't go draft a Caleb Williams or a Drake May or something.
Yeah, he's got to do his thing. He's got to prove himself. They're going to have the first overall pick, so he's really, really going to have to prove himself for 2 years in a row, really. And yeah, for the Lions, you start every option. They're going to be you start every fantasy option. They're so good. Amon-Ra St. Brown, top tier receiver. Jahmyr Gibbs has turned himself into a top tier running back with so much upside. You are so excited for him. He got more carries than Montgomery last week, and I kind of think it'll continue. I think he had 14 carries, Montgomery had 12. I think that's kind of a good baseline for the rest of the season, what's going to happen. I think it's going to be Gibbs just kind of out snapping him by a little, and obviously getting more involved in the receiving game. But Montgomery is obviously a must start as well. They're both just incredible top running backs. And yeah, on the Bears, like I said, I think they're going to score more than people think. I think my score prediction in this one will be Lions 34-21. So that's kind of gives you an idea. I think the Bears will be able to get some points, make it an interesting game, but in the end, it's in Detroit, and the Lions will do their thing.
Yeah, 100%, and not too much to talk about in this one. But I mean, it would be nice. As a Justin Fields fan, I have been since Ohio State. I'd like for him to just really prove himself this last half of the season and show why he should keep his job. He's got a long ways to go, but it better start quick for Justin Fields.
And I think you should be really excited for DJ Moore in this specific matchup. It feels like a DJ Moore, just feed DJ Moore game. They have to kind of rely on him in this game. And Cole Kmet is a little bit scarier, just because we don't know what he's going to be like with Justin Fields. We knew that Tyson Bagent really loved Cole Kmet. And yeah, Josh gave me a grin because he has DJ Moore. And I think he's going to go off this game. Hopefully it's reverse psychology.
A little bit of juju in the air going around. It's rivalry week, baby. Whatever works. I'll be knocking on hardwood as Dan's saying all this. But yeah, a little bit of juju going around in this pod right here. Maybe a little reverse psychology.
Yep. Yeah, it's a toxic rivalry week, and yeah, don't watch this one as well. We just another game that we got a sweep on. So we'll go on to the next one. The Giants are gonna go into Washington and play the Commanders, who are 8.5-point home favorites. And I don't know if you're bold enough to make this one not a sweep as well. I think this might be another sweep right here. It's the Danny DeVito game again. There's no Tyrod Taylor, unfortunately. If there was, I would strongly consider it, but no Tyrod Taylor. I'm not. The Giants aren't the 32. They aren't the 32nd best team in the NFL right now. I think Ohio State might be the 32nd best team in the NFL right now. Maybe Georgia, but the Giants are probably 34.
They're hanging around that, not quite 32. They couldn't make it to that mark yet. We'll see if they can work themselves up the next couple of weeks. But yeah, as long as Tommy DeVito is the quarterback, he's in a tier of Tommy DeVito and the Jets quarterback. I think at this point are in their own tier of they're so far they're by themselves. Let's just say you can
New
take
York, baby.
the New York quarterbacks are a struggle, and I think we're gonna agree on this one. I think we're gonna take the Washington Redskin Commanders, with Sam Howell leading the NFL in passing yards right now. It is a divisional game. There's a lot of divisional games this week. This is pretty much all we've been talking about. Another divisional game. Obviously, they know how each other play. But yeah, the Giants just seem so depleted, and Tommy DeVito throwing 1-yard passes to Saquon it's not going to be enough. I do think Saquon will be very relevant, fantasy relevant, and he's going to be the only one on the Giants team you can possibly consider. No one else is worth considering. And then the Commanders, I think you can really Brian Robinson, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, Logan Thomas. They really feast, and it's kind of like even Antonio Gibson might be relevant this week. But there's going to be a lot of options on the Commanders, and I think they'll put up a lot of points against the Giants, and I think it'll be a good week for the Commanders.
Yeah, start every commander option, no question. You can feel confident, even like Antonio Gibson as a dart throw. I think you start everyone. And for the Giants, like you said, there's one guy and it's Saquon. And unfortunately, the Commanders know that as well. So can the Commanders stop Saquon? They know that it's going to be their whole offense is ran through Saquon. So it's going to be interesting. I if I'm being honest, if you're a Saquon manager, I'm panicking. I have him in the league and I'm really trying to trade him, and I'm struggling to find a trade partner. He has a terrible schedule for the rest of the season. He has a bye week coming up. With this DeVito situation, I really think he's going to score like 10 points rest of season. I just think he's like a good floor, but he just has no upside. So I would try to get rid of him off name if I could.
100%. I agree. Yeah. But as I'm looking at the last few slates of our game, we're kind of agreeing on most things. So this will be interesting to see how these last few games turn out and how you think. But wow, there might be a tie for picks before this podcast even ends.
Man, if we pick the exact same pick on every single game, I'm restarting this whole podcast. That can't happen. But we'll go on to the next game, the first, or I guess it's the only 405 game this week. It's the Buccaneers, who are going to go into San Fran and play the Niners, who are 11.5-point favorites at home. And the Bucs are playing competitive. They had a good performance last week. Their defense played really good against the Titans, completely shut down Levis, and it impressed me. You really don't know what kind of Buccaneers team and especially defense are going to get week in and week out. They're really inconsistent, and I could kind of see them coming into San Francisco and playing really good against them, and their defense kind of tightening up and making this a close game. But I could also see this being a 60-point beatdown too. I feel like there's no in between. So it is a hard one to pick. I mean, you kind of have to pick the Niners. At 11.5-point line says it all. They got Trent Williams and Debo back. I'm trying to make it sound close. It's not that close with all the Niners players back. It's hopefully it's close, but.
And we agree again. This podcast might have to rethink this one. We have not disagreed so far, and like Dan was trying to say, you can try and make this one seem close, but it's with how the 49ers just played last week and had a bye week, got all their players back. It's gonna be uncomfortable for Baker. It's gonna be tough out there. I mean, maybe Mike Evans, Chris Godwin can get in the end zone because they've been doing a fairly good job of passing the ball. Rashad White's really playing good. They could put up some points, but at the same time, it's the 49ers defense really completely healthy back from their bye last week and a beat down against Jacksonville. So I mean, you kind of feel like you already know the outcome in this one unless there's a crazy big upset. But I don't think either of us feel comfortable picking against the 49ers right now.
Yeah. And you start every 49er option, and on the Buccaneers, you start Rashad White, a stud, you start Chris Godwin and Mike Evans, and I think that's about it.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, not too much to talk about this game. I would like to see an upset. I think it'd be fun to see Baker. I don't have the balls to do it right now.
And Purdy's a great start rest of the season, just a really good floor baseline quarterback. So Purdy's a start this week for sure. We'll get on to the next one, another divisional matchup, pretty good one, AFC East matchup. The Jets are going to go into Buffalo, stay in New York, and play the Bills, who are 7-point favorites. And Joe Brady is coming in to replace Ken Dorsey. That should be interesting. I personally think Ken Dorsey's kind of being scapegoated. Joe Brady isn't really a good offensive. I mean, like he's been terrible in the NFL. He was great in college, but he also had the literal best team of all time in college at LSU. So like it's hard to gauge because he was terrible with the Panthers. So I guess we'll see what he does. Hopefully he just force feeds Diggs every single play. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Diggs bounced back after getting shut down completely by Patrick Surtain last week. Hopefully he can stand on business and be a alpha receiver, because he's not really like backing it up against these top corners, and Sauce is that top 3 to 5 corner right now. So hopefully he can kind of have a day and bounce back against Sauce. It'll be a good matchup.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting. That'll be the storyline of this game. As long as the Bills can score a touchdown, I think that they'll win this one. I think that's now the bare minimum you have to do in playing the Jets, is if you can just get a touchdown and kick some field goals, just one touchdown will win the game. So as long as Josh Allen, I have full faith that he can score one touchdown, even though the Jets historically play pretty good against the Bills and have played in the last couple of years. I think now we can just rely on one touchdown, being the difference for the Bills. And I think me and you are both picking the Bills. So again, we agree, which is just getting a little bit sour at this point, ridiculous. But yeah, I mean, and I want to say a funny storyline from the Jets. They got together as a unit, as a team, and they discussed their offensive problems, and their big conclusion was cutting running back Michael Carter, a young running back who's averaged 4 yards a carry through his career, averaging 4.9 yards a carry. Not many touches this year, but that was their brilliant conclusion on how to make the team better, apparently.
And it's not just that. He's one of the bigger locker room guys in the whole team. He's like the most liked guy on the entire team. So that was a hilarious move. Like I think they were just looking at Twitter and seeing who was getting the most complaints on Twitter. And obviously every Breece Hall fantasy manager was bitching about Michael Carter being in on third downs because he's their third down back. So I think they literally just like looked at Twitter and saw a bunch of Michael Carter hate, and they're like, okay, we'll at least make our fans somewhat happy since we're not going to switch up the quarterback position. So yeah, I see a lot of just crazy excuse making in New York, especially for the quarterback. Like it's been 2 years and 11 weeks now, and we're making silly excuses. I'm seeing Jets fans on Twitter showing plays on film, like proving that there's nothing that the quarterback can do. But I literally broke down the film and found multiple wide open 5 to 6 yard patches of grass, which is more than NFL wide open. So I just think that Jets fans are just finding any excuse they can at this point. Nathaniel Hackett's a scapegoat, but Aaron Rodgers hired him. That's your guys' guy, Aaron Rodgers. You guys, him and Aaron Rodgers coexisted very well for years in Green Bay and were very successful. So that's your guys' guy, Aaron Rodgers hire. I wouldn't scapegoat. You guys are kind of scapegoating Aaron Rodgers with that one. And yeah, I just don't see the Trevor Siemian not putting him in. He had multiple years in Denver where he was in the playoff hunt, being a really competitive team, but the similar team to this Jets team. And I've been saying this for 10 weeks now. It's not going to happen. There's no use for talking about it.
Yeah. The Jets are just kind of laughable. And whatever that thing at Aaron Rodgers went out there, and we're not the worst team in New York. Why doesn't anyone talk? because you guys are Super Bowl talent, Aaron Rodgers, because you were there, because there's so much potential. I mean, I don't know what that weird thing was about. I mean, that was pretty unprofessional. Him calling out another NFL franchise, like that was weird. I don't know how much I liked that. What were your thoughts?
So insecure. Like, I'm not. I'm an Aaron Rodgers guy. Like, I sound like an Aaron Rodgers hater right now, but I just like it's just insecure. Like he brought that up for just no reason. It's the Giants. They played with three different quarterbacks. They're terrible in general. They weren't hyping themselves up to be a Super Bowl contender this offseason like you were, Aaron, and this Jets team. And you guys said no matter who the quarterback was, this defense should be able to carry him. But you have such a bad quarterback in there that they can't beat Aiden O'Connell and the Raiders. So the excuses are crazy. That video by Aaron Rodgers was just irresponsible and crazy. It really was. It's silly.
Yeah, they like set themselves up for failure. And yeah, New York is kind of a laughing stock at this point. It's kind of pathetic, but yeah, and at this point, I don't know. Just the Jets' whole franchise is just kind of laughable. And just the insecurities and the not being able to make decisions. I mean, it stems from Joe Douglas to Robert Saleh to whatever's going on behind the scenes. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think if in Jets fans, everyone, it seems to be so delusional. There seems to be one clear problem dating back from a couple of years ago when you drafted him, and just the inability to admit you're wrong has just caused the Jets hell. And that's ultimately nothing but their fault. So I mean, they got to take accountability for that. I mean, they should be Super Bowl contenders, but they're not. And there's one problem with that.
And the sad part about all this, Josh, is it sounds like we're talking about the Bills like there's some juggernaut still. The Bills are terrible. The Bills have played terrible. If you watch them against
Hit
the
the panic.
Broncos,
Hit the panic on the Bills
the
right
Bills
now.
are a bad football team. But that just shows you like they're gonna beat this Jets team because that just shows you how inept they are on offense. If you score 2 touchdowns, it's over. They can't unless they break a few kick returns or something. They cannot score you.
Yeah, I mean, you're relying on a Brees Hall miracle 3 tackles, 70-yard play. When the Jets if anytime the Jets have been past the 50-yard line, even their defense gives them a gift, they cannot get in the end zone. It's brutal at this point. It's been 12 quarters without a touchdown. I mean, that's where this is 2023 in the NFL. We're talking about pass heavy league. Points are being put up. I don't care if Danny DeVito can score 2 touchdowns against the Cowboys defense, and it's just doesn't make a lot of sense. And yeah, I mean, we're talking like the Bills are some juggernaut. And yeah, like you said, the Bills got exposed last week. The Bills really are not a good football team. I'm hitting the panic button on the Bills. They are almost single-handedly these past few games eliminating themselves from playoff contention when we're talking about the Bills being should be and could be a legit Super Bowl contender. And I don't know, it just seems to be messy there. And I think Trayvon Diggs tweeted out this morning that Josh Allen was never even good until Stephon Diggs got there. And I don't know, it just seems to be toxic in the locker room, and the Bills kind of are going downhill fast too.
Yep, and moral of the story of this one is Robert Saleh is gifting these struggling Bills a win by not starting Trevor Siemian. It's as simple as that. And with that, we'll move on to the Seahawks, who are going to go into LA and play the Rams. And the Seahawks are 1-point road favorites. Another divisional matchup, an NFC West matchup, and this is a really close one. I think this is one that we could maybe split on here. I had a hard time picking this one. I think Geno has a good game. I think Stafford coming back has a pretty good game. I'm just going to get it out of the way. I want to pick the Rams because I think Stafford coming back, finally, we're going to have a different. Are you picking the Seahawks?
I want to pick the Seahawks. We
Okay.
got to get different on this one, and I feel comfortable taking the Seahawks in this one.
All right, we don't have to restart the podcast. Then we've got finally a different pick game, and yeah, I just feel like the Rams with Stafford coming back at home. I have a feeling that Puka and Cooper Kupp can make some magic. I hope that Aaron Donald and the Rams defense can be stout enough to hold up and let this. It's going to be a really good close divisional matchup. It's going to be a close one.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking it up real quick. The Rams' first game, week 1 against the Seahawks. Just looking, what was the score in that one? It was Rams versus Seahawks. Where is excuse me. Why can't I find this?
I got you right here.
Okay.
Some great podcasting from us, but 30-13, 30-13 for the Rams. So that's I didn't even realize that. So I'm feeling better.
I was gonna say, I was like, it was some ridiculous score. the Seahawks were asleep at the wheel week 1. Puka Nakua legacy game. And the Rams didn't even have Cooper Kupp. Now I'm all of a sudden feeling a little bit more insecure about this one. However, I'm still riding with this. This is week 1 we're talking about. Week 1 is weird. Just ask Joe Burrow. Just ask any team. I'm riding with the Seahawks. Geno Smith, they're looking better. They're really distributing the ball well. Their defense looks to be playing better even after an absolute brutal beatdown a couple of weeks ago from the Ravens. But yeah, this will be close. I mean, the 1-point line right here for the Seahawks is very close. But yeah, I'll roll with the Seahawks. I'll feel comfortable. I think they'll split their division, another division game. I think they'll split it 1-1 this year, and it's the only reason I'm picking them. I think it's an even split.
Yeah, honestly, for some reason, the Rams kind of dominating that week 1 game does make me picking the Rams in this one a little bit scarier. I just feel like the Seahawks will kind of even the balance here, but we'll get on to the Sunday night football game. Really excited for this one. Josh Dobbs, Dobbs sanity. The Vikings are going to go into Denver and into the altitude and play the Broncos. The Broncos are 2.5-point favorites on Sunday night football, and the Broncos are the best team in the NFL right now. They're the team to beat in the entire NFL. I don't think anyone's better coming off of 2 wins against the Bills and Chiefs. I just don't think there's a better team in the NFL right now. And on the opposite side, I think Josh Dobbs is like the best quarterback in the NFC right now, and the Vikings are like the best. No, I'm kidding. These are 2 hot teams, though. It's going to be actually a kind of a fun Sunday night game. 2 weeks ago, the schedule makers kind of looked crazy with this one, but now they look pretty smart. I think it's going to be a fun game. It'll be pretty competitive. I feel like both these teams match up well. They're both on pretty big win streaks, and Brian Flores is doing a great job with the Vikings, and that's been talked about, but Vance Joseph is doing a lot better job with the Broncos. So it is going to be an interesting game. Russell Wilson's obviously been playing great football. He really has. He played fantastic against the Bills. I would say flawless. He completely outplayed Josh Allen, which says a lot. And Josh Dobbs, he's lit the world on storm. He's been the darling of the NFL right now, and it's going to be hard to beat him. He's got the NBA Jam fireworks coming out of him right now. He's on fire.
Yeah, this is actually, believe it or not, probably the toughest game for me to decide from. But I'm with those guys when, like I always say, it stems back to the Fitz magic. And I think there's some Fitz magic in Josh Dobbs right now. And it's Justin Jefferson's coming back. Supposedly this game, we'll see. That's something to monitor too. But I think that the Vikings are just rolling. And I mean, so are the Broncos on the other side. Really 2 big statement wins against 2 very good teams, which most people in the AFC can't say. They beat the Chiefs and the Bills in back-to-back weeks. The Broncos finally look like they're putting it together. I mean, as I'm talking about this, I'm going back and forth. But I'm high on that Fitz magic. And it's that Dobbs magic right now. And this dude's a baller. So I'm taking the Vikings. It's going to be really close, though. And I really like this one for Sunday Night Football. It'll be fun.
So we're going to be calling him Josh Dobbs 3 weeks in a row, huh? That's crazy.
Yes, sir. He's got a great name.
All right, yeah. I think you start Josh Dobbs in fantasy. I really do. I think he's a must start like rest of season with all of his options now. Justin Jefferson probably will be back, and you've got Hawkinson, who's just the GOAT tight end right now. He's a league winner. You start him, and Jordan Addison with the Jettas coming back is a little bit more questionable. The Broncos defense is tightened up a little bit. I'm not confident starting Jordan Addison, I'm gonna be honest, but that's just me. I know a lot of people love Jordan Addison, and yeah, you start Ty Chandler. He's a must start in this matchup. The Broncos run defense has been like the 1 weak part of their defense. So the last few weeks at least. So yeah, I just think those will be the starts for the Vikings. And for the Broncos, Javonte Williams is a must start right now. He's coming off a lot of just volume, and he's really starting to look healthy and get things going. And Cortland Sutton's a start. He's kind of a touchdown machine. He's on like a 3 or 4 game. He's on a 4-game touchdown streak right now. So that's impressive. And yeah, I think Russell Wilson's a dart throw as well in prime time.
Yeah, I think you just start the whole barn at this point, for both sides. I mean, it's going to be close. I think depending on what your situation looks like, Jordan, I don't know. I honestly think you start everyone on both sides, because I honestly think this one's going to be a lot of offense, in my opinion, even though the Broncos defense is playing pretty good. I think it's going to be a lot of offense, and I don't know. I'm super excited. I hope it's a high scoring game. It is prime time Sunday night. Josh Dobbs versus Russell Wilson. I love it. A couple weeks ago we'd been laughing at this, but now this is a legit exciting game. And there's a lot on the line for the Broncos. There's a lot for them to play for, and same with the Vikings. So these are two playoff hopeful teams, and it's going to be good. These guys are going to be playing hard, and like you said, Javonte Williams has been feasting the last couple weeks. Cortland Sutton on like a 3-4 game bender of touchdowns. I think start everyone. Why not? Let's have a high scoring, fun Sunday night football game.
Yep. It's gonna be fun. I'm excited to see how Dub's connection with Justin Jefferson is. It's gonna be important rest of the season.
Yeah, 100%. But tune into this one. Who are you taking, Dan?
I'm gonna take my Broncos. I'm probably biased. I'm gonna take the Broncos at home. I'm actually I am starting the Broncos defense in this one just because I think it'll probably finish like exactly how that Bills game did. I think it's gonna be like 20-21, like somewhere right around there. And I think both defenses are startable options if you really need, and you just start whatever one you predict to win. And I'm predicting the Broncos to win. So I just think that's where I'm going. It'll be a really, really close game. I just think they'll come away with it at home.
I like it. I like it. We're disagreed on 2 games in a row. So apparently you only need to watch the Seahawks Rams and Vikings Broncos so far. We'll see how Monday night goes.
Yeah, I think we might disagree on this one too. We'll go to Monday Night Football. It's the Kelsey Bowl, Super Bowl rematch. It's going to be an insane game too. Like definitely top 3 teams in the NFL right now. They're playing great. You got the 8-1 Eagles going into Kansas City to play the 7-2 Chiefs. The Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites, and I think like it's really hard to decipher this game. It really is. One thing I wanted to mention though is, do you remember how bad the Eagles defense and just pass defense was against the Commanders this season in the 2 games they played?
Yeah, I mean it was a divisional game, but they gave up like 30 plus points to Sam Howell in 2 games. I mean, in both games, it was ridiculous.
This could mean absolutely nothing, but with Eric Bieniemy, with his scheme kind of giving the Eagles problems, I'm pretty confident that the Chiefs will kind of be able to give this Eagles secondary problems, who've just been struggling in general this season. The Eagles secondary is really kind of disappointed me. Their D line is obviously insane. Their pass rush is insane, but I think their secondary might lose them this game. I think Kelsey kind of breaks free. I think he at least has a touchdown. I think you could throw some money on a Kelsey over for touchdown, and against his brother, his whole family. Taylor Swift will be in attendance. I think you can bet some money on a Travis Kelsey touchdown for sure. And I don't know. How do you think this one's going to go?
I'm going to go with the Eagles for 2 reasons. It's a revenge game from the Super Bowl. They're pissed off. They're angry. And the second reason, I think they're just flat out a better football team. I think the Eagles have more talent than the Chiefs do. And they have a better receiving core. They have a better offensive line. I mean, arguably the only 2 positions that the Chiefs are better at is quarterback and tight end. And the Eagles do have a very, very good quarterback, is not that far behind. I mean, everyone's behind Mahomes, but he's not that far, from that alien tier quarterback. So, in a revenge game, are the Eagles really going to let the Chiefs walk all over them twice in a row? I don't think so. And I genuinely just think the Eagles are a better team. And I think outside of Travis Kelsey, the Chiefs are kind of stagnant. I mean, we'll see how Pacheco does. He absolutely destroyed the Eagles in the Super Bowl, but I don't know. I just feel like the Chiefs wide receivers are kind of just not that good this year. I know Rashee Rice has looked better these last few weeks, but still, I'm not convinced. I'm just going to go with who I think the better football team is, and I think that's the Eagles.
All right, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I think I'm picking the Chiefs just because of their defense, especially. I think their defense has really impressed me. I think that'll kind of be a difference maker in this one, and then the Eagles secondary, I think, will be a difference maker, and then just the home field advantage. It's a really close game, so I kind of just was going to pick the home team in this one anyway. And yeah, it's going to be fun. The Kelsey Bowl, you start every fantasy option, and you target this one in fantasy. You start players like Rashee Rice, obviously Travis Kelsey, Patrick Mahomes, Isaiah Pacheco. You start on the Eagles. You start everyone. I can't even think of anyone that you can't start. Is Goddard playing right now? I can't even tell if he's healthy.
Goddard, I think, is looking doubtful for this week.
Okay.
I don't think he's on pace to play.
Then you're more optimistic for Devontae Smith because they've been just force feeding AJ Brown so much that Devontae Smith hasn't been as electric. But I think with no Goddard, that's when Devontae Smith eats.
100%. Yeah. This should be a super, exciting game. it is the Super Bowl rematch right here, and just it's going to be fun. Monday Night Football, Kelsey Bowl should be tune into this one. No matter what the outcome, this should be a pretty awesome game.
Yeah, the more I just like stare at this matchup, this is going to be a really, really fun game. I'm so excited for this. Of course, it's the last game of the week, but yeah, it's going to be a fun one, and it's going to decide our fantasy matchup. It's going to be a toxic one for rivalry week. It's going to be a very, very toxic one. Hopefully, Mahomes and Kelsey do their thing.
Comes down to Monday Night Football, baby. Wouldn't want it any other way.
Oh man, well, it was fun. It was fun going over all these games before rivalry week. Before we hate each other after this. Hopefully, we have some episodes next week and we don't hurt each other after our matchup. But yeah, it was really fun and yeah, excited.
Yes, sir. Good week. Comment in the chat who you want to win for rivalry week. Me versus Dan. Come on. You got to pick your favorite podcaster. Choose one of us. Drop your comments. We'd love to see them.
Yeah, maybe we'll post like our matchup or something on our Instagram store, and you can go vote on whose team you think will win. But yeah, really excited. Yeah, check out the NFL Seekers on all platforms. Subscribe it and like if you liked. It really helps spread the channel. So yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and peace.
Peace.